picture of my office. This is one of my offices. I don't mean to show off, but when you have a workplace like this, you have to show off a little bit sometimes. So I'm calling this my office because it's my work that takes me here. I've gone there sitting at several remote locations like this in the Himalayas. I've had discussions with my colleagues about how we can take work forward and about how we can take trekking forward. But this is just one office of mine. I'd like to show you another office of mine. This is my other office, not as fancy as that one, but this is my more permanent office. It's in Bangalore, and this is where I have a desk, a laptop, fixed work hours, the whole gamut. Now, shuffling between the mountains and office for my work, I've been able to learn a lot about how to look at work and how I feel every millennial sitting here should look at work. And I'd like to share that with you today. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Swati Chatrapati. I head the digital content team at India Hikes, where we're doing some extraordinary work in defining the future of trekking in our country. Now, I don't know if you all know India Hikes. We're the pioneering organization when it comes to trekking in our country, and we're also the largest trekking organization. So through my work, I've actually been able to learn a lot about how to look at work. One of the other things I do is also have a YouTube show called Trek with Swati, where I dive deep into the trekking world and share knowledge about trails, trek tips, and also a lot of trek talk where I have guests on my show. Another thing I do is every week I have a column that I write, and I've been writing this for the past 3 years without fail, where I share opinions and news from the trekking world. Over 100,000 people subscribe to these mailers today. So I'm going to share with you 3 of my biggest takeaways about how to look at work. Now, 5 years ago, before I started work at India Hikes, I was looking for a job. I was looking for something that would occupy my time, something that would fit my skills, something that could also help me earn. And I recently quit my job at a newspaper. So during this job hunt, it was by sheer coincidence that I learned about India Hikes. One of my friends, she'd gone on a Himalayan trek with them, and she came back raving about this organization. And she also told me they have a website with terrific content and that I should check it out and perhaps apply there as a content writer. I thought, why not? And I dived into it. I went for the interview. This was 5 years ago, and India Hikes was also 5 years old back then. And they were already the largest trekking organization. So with my skills, I just had some basic content skills, no knowledge at all about the trekking world. I think it was by sheer luck that I bagged the job, and I immediately started working there. Now, once I started working there, my first few months at India Hikes, they were fraught with confusion in my mind. Confusion because I had absolutely no clue what to do on a daily basis. And nobody told me this. Not my colleagues, not my seniors, not the founders. What they did instead was they told me a certain vision to work towards. They told me to grow my work in that direction. And I was confused. I'm like, what are they talking about? What vision? What am I supposed to do every day? Please tell me that. Because I had no clue about the content world. I had some writing skills and I wanted to utilize that. And this was very different from my previous job. In my previous job, my editor used to tell me every day what to do. She had told me write 1 article a day, edit 1 page a day. She would either scrap my articles or approve them. There was no in-between. There was no ambiguity. So when I joined India Hikes, I struggled through the first few months with this ambiguity. But within a few months, there was an event that completely changed my approach towards work. I went on my first Himalayan trek. It was a Chandrashila trek, and much like any first time in the Himalayas, I was taken in by the mountains. I was camping in the wilderness, we were trekking through dense forests, I even saw fox on the trail. I remember seeing snow-capped peaks at an arm's distance, and I was fascinated by the mountains. It was thoroughly enchanting. And everything was going really well until I reached the summit of Chandrashila. I had a few minutes to myself at the summit, and there was a small shrine there, and that was the shrine. It was early in the morning, and it was beautifully lit. So I went there, sat next to the shrine, and I was taking in this view that you see. And for no reason at all, I began to cry. It was embarrassing, and I felt quite silly that I was crying, because physically I felt really good. Mentally I felt accomplished. I've come such a long way, climbing 4 days all the way to the top. And yet I was sitting there and crying. I had absolutely no explanation for how I felt. Within a few minutes, I heard someone coming behind me. I quickly wiped off those tears. I didn't want anyone to see me like that. But that moment stayed with me till today, and it still stays with me. Because that's the first time I realized how powerful a trek can be. The trek had impacted me deeply, and it had touched my mind, my body, and my spirit. And I could see it wasn't just me. It was all my trek mates that were with me. I could see the way they were talking, their body language, their demeanor, it had all changed after the trek. And I knew that somewhere deep inside the trek had really touched them. With this understanding and reflecting on how everybody felt, the vision of the organization came spiraling back to me. I just understood what the founders had been trying to tell me all along. Our vision was pretty simple. We wanted people to trek. Not necessarily with us, it didn't matter when, where, or how. We just wanted people to trek because a trek is such a wonderful thing. It can actually change your life. So with this understanding of the vision or the reason why I had to do these daily tasks, I learned my first lesson on how to look at work. I realized that it's extremely important to understand the why of whatever you're doing. And once you understand the why, the what and how automatically follow. And this actually changed how I approached my work. This is something I'd been doing wrong all along. My previous job, this job, I was just going from task to task, never really understanding why I was doing what I was doing. And it seemed meaningless. But it took me time to understand the why of an organization. And this is where I see people going wrong. They begin to think that their current organization does not have a why, and they get drained out and they quit their jobs and stop working. But believe me, every organization has a why. Whether it's a startup, whether it's an MNC, all you have to do is look for that why, understand why you're doing whatever you're doing on a daily basis, and everything will start making sense to you. Your work becomes a lot more meaningful. So once I understood my why, I came back to Bangalore, and I knew what I had to do. I had to take trekking forward. So I started a video show, and I called it Trek with Swati. On the show, we would cover detailed information about trekking trails, about trekking tips. We'd have guests on the show. A show like this did not exist back then. It was the first of its kind. I still remember we would go early in the morning to Cubbon Park here. We wanted the nice early morning light and the outdoorsy background. We wanted no noise. We wanted the birds chirping instead. We did not have fancy lights or a studio or equipment, but we had a lot of thoughts to share. So we started doing this continuously and consistently every week, and within no time the show began to grow in popularity. I remember it was not just our trekkers watching these videos. I noticed that people from all over India were watching these videos for guidance about how to go about a trek in the Himalayas. And it was during this journey of mine that I learned my next lesson. I was on my way to another trek of mine, and I was on an overnight train from Delhi to Dehradun. And exhausted from the day's journey, I was fast asleep. But in a few hours, I heard someone calling out my name, and they were whispering. And I continued to sleep. I thought it was a dream. But suddenly I realized I'm in a sleeper class train, a single woman, and someone was whispering my name. So I suddenly woke up and looked around to see who it was. And there was this young lady standing next to me. And she was telling me, she was actually talking to me, and she told me, "Hi Swati, I've seen all your videos. I'm going on my first Himalayan trek, and your videos have really helped me prepare. Thanks a lot." So I was sitting there. She walked away after she said that. The train had stopped at Haridwar and she got off. But I was sitting there quite dumbstruck. I was in the middle of nowhere on a train, and somebody had recognized me. I was quite elated that she had recognized me despite me looking half asleep like a zombie on a train. But what struck me was she had recognized me or identified me for my work. She saw me as Swati from the trek videos, or Swati from India Hikes. And this was the first of many recognitions to come. You know, I had thought trekking is such a niche field in our country. Not many people know about trekking at all, and nobody would be watching the videos. But I was so wrong. After a few years, people started recognizing me everywhere. In train stations, airports, restaurants, my own apartment, even on trekking trails in the middle of nowhere. They would all come to me, they would look closely and say, hey, you're Swati from the videos, right? And I would just say yes and speak to them about it. It was embarrassing as hell in the beginning, but it really was overwhelming, and it taught me a very big lesson about how to look at work. It taught me that making your work your identity can really take your career forward. I'll explain this a little bit to you. Now, once I realized that people were recognizing me for my work, the drive I found was on a totally different level. Because suddenly I wanted to do a lot better, I wanted to learn more about the teching world, I wanted to learn more about making videos itself and every single aspect of my work. Not only my identity was at stake, I realized that my work was having an impact on people and I wanted to have a larger impact. So that really pushed me forward. And the more I thought about it, the more sense it made to me. Because I thought about the best CEOs and COOs in the world. I thought about Sheryl Sandberg, Satya Nadella, Sundar Pichai. They've all made their work their identity. Even here, the TEDx speakers sitting here with us today, they've all made their work their identity, and that is what they're known for. And many people think that you've got to be in a field where exposure is easy, where you're a filmmaker or a writer to get this kind of identity. But that is not true. Even sitting in an office as an engineer or an HR professional, you actually have the chance to get that identity and make your work your identity. And the best way to go about it is to get really good at what you do. And I've seen this scale up. It takes time, but it does scale up. You first start identifying yourself with your work. Doesn't matter with an organization or by yourself. You identify yourself with your work and you want to get really good at it and you work hard at it. Then your workspace starts recognizing you for your work, and finally it moves on to the external world around you that starts beginning to recognize you by your work. And this identity is what propels your career forward. And this is what makes you ambitious. You refuse to accept mediocrity anymore, and you try to reach the stars. So I also knew that this identity, it takes time. Obviously, you have to put in a lot of hard work and time and effort. And I was doing this. I'd been making videos consistently and learning things consistently. And I soon started seeing that I was putting in a lot of time and effort into my work. And a lot of my friends started putting this idea of work-life balance in my head. Now, this work-life balance is something that I very often struggle to understand. The internet tells me that work-life balance means to separate your work from your life, and my friends swore by this. They all very strictly separated their work from their life. But I was finding this very hard to do because my work intersected with my personal life in so many areas. And I always had my mind bubbling with questions about work-life balance. I talked to my family, my colleagues, and I always had these questions but never got an answer. But there was this one small incident that gave me all my answers and solved my doubts about work-life balance. I was in Mysore to attend a wedding, and the wedding happened to be on a Thursday. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I have a column that I write every Thursday, and even that week I had already scheduled a column and kept it aside. But because of some internal issues, we could not use that column, which meant we had to write a fresh one. Which means sitting there, I had to think of a topic, write the entire column, edit it myself, have someone else proofread it for me, put it up on an email management tool, test, send it, make sure all the links are working fine, and then schedule it out to 100,000 followers. All this sitting there at a wedding, and I had to finish it up by 1 p.m., which was my deadline. Now, thankfully, I had my laptop with me, so I brought it out. I sat in a corner, wearing a sari and things, sitting and typing there very furiously. A lot of people, faraway relatives, they came, made small talk, went away. You know how weddings are. But my closest family members, they were constantly hovering about and sometimes teasing me for working at a wedding, or sometimes just keeping me company. But after some time, I noticed something strange. These closest family members of mine, who were seeing me struggling, trying to keep up with my deadline and do so many things at once, they started offering to help me. My sister, she helped me ideate for the entire column. My husband, he proofread my email. And my cousins, they tested the mail, made sure all the links were working fine. And it's like they'd taken over my work, and by 1 p.m., that email was sent, and it actually did very well. But watching them, I realized how much they knew about my work. They knew so much about it, and they knew how important it was to me. And I realized that throughout this 5-year journey of mine, they'd been with me at every step, constantly guiding me through my work. And just reflecting on this fact resolved all my doubts about work-life balance. I realized that work-life balance is something that's heavily misunderstood. To me, work-life balance does not mean separating your work and life. It means to bring a collaboration between the two. And the stronger the collaboration, the more wholesome your life becomes. Just like my family had helped me with this entire work phase of mine, even in my work, my colleagues, my mentors, they constantly emphasized on the importance of having a personal life. They would always push me towards leading a fit, healthy life and constantly enrich me with their experience and knowledge. And this beautiful exchange of thoughts and values from my family and from my workplace, I think that's what made my life so wholesome, and that's what helped me take my work and my life forward. To me, work-life balance, I honestly cannot imagine it in any other way. This is what work-life balance is to me. So this brings me to my conclusion, where there are three key takeaways that I have. The first is to understand the why. Once you understand the why of your work, the what and how automatically follow. You know exactly what you have to do, and your work becomes a lot more meaningful. The second is to make your work your identity. Once you make your work your identity, you constantly want to get better at what you do, and you constantly push yourself to do better, and you become more ambitious. It's what propels your career forward. And finally, work-life balance. Have a collaborative work-life balance. I really believe that is how you can have a wholesome, enriched life. Once you have these three things in place at your workplace, work is no longer laborious. It becomes a labor of love.